All right. Well, we've looked at a variety of knives, so I thought I'd show you some of what I consider, by my own standards, very, very dangerous knives. Okay. Um, some go without question. I mean, if you have a good tanto, okay. The karambit. Where's Mr. Karambit here? Okay. Definitely. This is something that it's not the most concealable weapon, but in terms of the damage you can do with it, it's extremely dangerous. Okay. Um, this is my favorite. Now I'm going to tell you why. This knife is the perfect length to me for anything. Okay. It doesn't have a tanto design, but it has enough of an offset that I can get secondary slicing with the tip. Okay. So if I'm cutting into something, I just have to flick my wrist and I can engage that second part of the knife. Okay. So it gives me targets that I can hit with that. It's got good point. Okay. Good weight. A knife this size, you have a lot of dexterity with it and the ability to conceal it numerous ways. Okay. So when you're talking about a nice mobility, okay? Being able to move it around, to conceal it, okay? So I can very quickly shift over my attacks, okay? Okay? So I have all aspects of this. It's got enough length where I can use it at a distance if I need to, okay? And it's got enough of a compaction in its stature and its design that if I want to come in here, say I can very quickly use it in close. So this is my go-to if I really think the shit's gonna hit the fan. It also doesn't look particularly menacing, which is another nice thing, because you don't want your weapons to necessarily reflect how dangerous they are until you've utilized them to the capacity that you have to utilize them for. Okay? Anyway, I've given you a somewhat generous amount of different weapons from a few traditions to look at. The reason I didn't include things like Bowies and K-bars is those knives came from previous traditions, and a lot of what they developed was to try to look at fencing weapons. Okay? Now, the reason that this is significant is that transmission is not combat related. In other words, when you look at Iberian and other European fencing systems, and then you look at a Bowie, okay? I was going to bring one out, but you can all know what a Bowie looks like. A Bowie does not reflect the best use of those fencing weapons, okay? What they tried to do was they tried to take as much blade, give it somewhat of a guard, and put it together, okay? There wasn't really so much reflection on previous designs of those weapons that were effective, okay? So, are they effective weapons? Absolutely. But you can see, like, for example, some of the offshoots of, I think it's called a Kentucky toothpick. The blades get bigger and, eventually they can even look like a small saber, By the time you get to something like a K-bar, it's basically the weight is good. You have a nice fat blade with a little bit of a curvature. But yeah, the curvature is very important. It reflects a little bit of understanding about cutting dynamics, obviously. But there wasn't the amount of evolution of the weapon that you see. People have been using these weapons for a long time. And when you see how they developed from that use in combat, those are legitimate things to consider and why a weapon is used a certain way. You can use it any way you want after that. Look, for a karambit, I got no problem holding karambit this way. I understand why people choose to use it this way. Okay? Everything's exposed this way coming up. Okay? Whereas from the top, you have some protection against those areas. Okay? But you can use this that way. That's not the issue. The issue, though, is understanding why these things are made the way they are. These rings, to be able to flick the weapon around, okay? They don't necessarily help you transition so much, but they do help you hold the weapon, okay? Let me show you on a gravity knife, a relatively new kind of a contraption that people use nowadays, okay? So I have this little ring here, okay? Why do I need that? Well, if I want to deploy this, right, okay? I'm going to hold it with my pinky in this case. I'm going to open the knife on the side here, okay? Which now will allow this knife to drop, okay? So in order to do that, now it's deployed, okay? So that's what that ring basically is for. It also, you can start to use it as a secondary weapon, whatever. But again, that ring, this is a modern sense of design, okay? But when I open this weapon up, right, okay, here, okay, whatever the case may be, this opens up, okay, and then I just drop it. Now it's deployed, okay? Karambit is a similar idea. What's that ring for in a karambit, right? Okay, that ring is for, okay, if you just want to deploy this quickly, you can pull it down with your pinky. See? Just pull it down and it's deployed, okay? You can come this way too. But the blade comes better at this angle. Pretend this is sort of on my hip, okay? If it's in my pinky now, boom. Or if you're coming up, okay? It allows you to hold the weapon, okay? But particularly if we're coming down this way, okay? Just by pulling on this, okay? It deploys. And you can use this finger as well. Actually, for the karambit, use this finger. It makes more sense. I'm sorry. See? My bad. Your index. Pretend this is on my hip. You can just very quickly deploy by pulling down, okay? Similar idea. Instead of worrying about this grasping movement, which is actually almost a fine motor movement, not quite, okay? You can train yourself reflexively. You just find that and you're deployed. Coming up, right, line of conception, ripping upwards, okay? Coming across, ripping to the side, okay? Whatever the case may be, okay? Similar idea, okay? Just down and the weapon is yours to handle. These things also operate secondarily as something you can hit with, okay? You can always retain the weapon with it, okay? And weapon retention is very important because when you're learning how to use a weapon, particularly if you lose it and it's a dangerous weapon, think about what can happen to you, okay? So when you see rings on weapons, okay, they usually have some sort of a reasoning behind that, okay? hope this was helpful, guys. We'll do more of this, and I'll include more weapons. We'll do one on swords as well. Let's